Another Soros-backed district attorney takes aim at a police officer. The disgraced federal prosecutor behind the charges, the missing police report, and the years-long battle in Boston. Next. Jennifer Finnerty is my guest, the wife of former Sergeant David Finnerty with the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. Jennifer, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Certainly wish it was better under better circumstances. Really unbelievable what your family's been through.
Thank you.
Your husband's case is truly maddening when you hear the details. It's been playing out in Boston, but it does resemble more than a few prosecutions of police officers here in Minnesota. This has been dragging on since the summer of 2018, almost 7 years at this point. How have you and your husband, your family, been coping through all of this?
It's definitely been tough. We try to keep life as normal as possible for our young girls. I have a 19-year-old stepdaughter and two young girls who are now 9 and 7. My youngest was 8 months old when this all started, and she just turned 7. So it's definitely tough, but we have to try to remain positive because we have to go forward and, for our girls and try to keep their lives as normal as possible and try not to allow what is really affecting us interfere with them.
Just for background, during an overnight shift in the summer of 2018, your husband David was the temporary officer in charge. A homeless man was arrested by another officer miles away from where your husband was and filed an allegation of excessive force against the other officer. So your husband, in doing what is ethical and what is right, became a whistleblower in that case. But that didn't stop a Soros-backed prosecutor from indicting your husband for aiding in the commission of an assault, even though your husband wasn't even there. This whole thing just sounds so crazy. Is there anything you can do to explain to make us make sense of it at all?
It really is tough to explain. And whenever we tell our story, everyone's like, how is your husband in this situation? He is the only one that has gone on to be charged. My husband was the only one when command staff came in and he let them know this was not a justified use of force that the patrolman used. And instead of going into the room where the patrolman and another sergeant were working on a report, he went into another room and just watched in real time them writing the report. He never went in to go question them or anything. And we believe they're trying to cover up the political interference that Rachel Rollins had in a Suffolk County DA race. And my husband, unfortunately, was the scapegoat of all of this.
Yeah, and I want to get to that. I think that's going to be the light bulb moment here for folks. The state prosecutor who filed charges against your husband, again, is Rachel Rollins. She was later promoted to U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts under former President Joe Biden. So if her name sounds familiar, she's the same Rachel Rollins who resigned. She had her law license suspended after allegedly leaking information to the press and lying to investigators during an unrelated case. She also alleged that your husband drafted a false police report to cover up the unlawful use of force, but something came to light the day before the state trial. Explain that.
Yes. So for 4 years, we were waiting to go to trial. And on the day before trial, we said the eve of trial, the original police report suddenly appeared. Now, for all 4 years, my husband's lawyer was requesting this police report, and we were told it didn't exist. And then all of a sudden, on the day before trial, it comes out and it shows that my husband, in fact, did not do what they said that he did. And this report cleared him of all charges. So then the DA came and said they could no longer move forward with prosecuting my husband because this report shows that he had no wrongdoing.
And we'll get to what happens next in a moment, but we have two specific photos that we want people to see for themselves, as it seems that politics played a role in all of this. Walk us through what we're seeing here.
The pictures are of the command staff of the MBTA Transit Police standing with Rachel Rollins. They were actually the only police department in the state of Massachusetts that backed Rachel Rollins. All others did not back her. So these pictures are of her standing with our command staff. And one of them is actually the superintendent of the department who was the lead investigator of my husband's case.
And then the other picture here is something that took place in 2020.
The Black Lives Matter, the police department, they were told to take a knee to show their respect, I guess, for the Black Lives Matter movement.
So much like the officers involved in the arrest of George Floyd, charges were filed against your husband in both the state and then in federal court that you eventually find out. The charges filed by Rollins in the state case, they're dropped in 2022. You're thinking this is all behind you, you're ready to move forward. Rollins becomes a federal prosecutor. And in what hardly seems like a coincidence, a federal grand jury launched an investigation into your husband. Did you know about any of that even at the time?
We did not. We had no idea it was taking place. And once we found out that it was taking place, we actually believed it was on the command staff and not on my husband. And then we found out that it was on my husband. But yes, we had no idea.
So even though the state charges were dropped, your husband is now set to go on trial once again in federal court in May. He is facing 20 years in prison. But there's something even more shocking, if not impossible, to believe here. Your husband is the only one on trial. The officer who actually committed the assault, he was not indicted. Your husband's supervisor was not indicted. Nobody in the command staff above your husband was indicted either. You're the wife of a police officer. I know you're a school teacher, a public servant yourself, a mother of three, as you mentioned. What does this situation, though, just say overall about the sense of justice in America?
It's hard to believe that there really is justice. You go through something like this, and it has really opened my eyes. I never kind of knew that all of this was happening to people until it started to happen to us. It's hard to have faith in our justice system when we're going through something that we shouldn't even be going through.
And how has this affected? I know your husband has been able to find some kind of work, but I know he was denied back pay. Your family's been through some really difficult years, and you're facing an uncertain future still at this very moment.
Yes, and we did win our back pay hearing. In September, we had our hearing for back pay, and then we found out the day after Thanksgiving that we won the back pay. However, 2 days before Christmas, we found out that the T is appealing that decision. And the only argument that they have is that he could be charged or found guilty in the federal case, and that's why they're appealing it.
So wrong on so many levels. I know a fund has been set up to help your family cope, but Jennifer Finnerty, thank you for being here. We appreciate you speaking out. We're hoping that someone can still do something. But as we said again, at this point, your husband facing trial in May.
Correct.
That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We will see you next time.